accepted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Capital World, Kernersville, North Carolina. I'm Bobby Davis, the CEO and founder of Coder Foundry, and I'm always joined here with Kevin Doyle, the best producer. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm good. Good.
All right, good.
Good. We'll do usual Q&A today, just like normal.
Right.
We'll do that in a little bit. A couple of things to talk about first, just like we always do.
So you're watching the Olympics at all? Or are you watching that at all?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, the Olympics has kind of annoyed me this year.
Yeah.
It's weird. Okay, firstly, it's weird because there's nobody there. It just feels strange.
Right. Yeah.
Every event feels like a practice, right? So that's kind of strange to start off with. But then, because it's on at like the complete opposite of our time, you wake up in the morning,
exactly,
and you're trying to avoid like what's happened because you want to watch it later on in the day. So I'm trying to the news is pummeling me with these things about like who's winning and who's losing, and I'm like, I wanted to watch that later.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's kind of boring to watch it. I got spoilers this morning, and I'm like, I turned off one news source already, then another one hit me that I forgot I even had turned on.
I know.
I was like, oh,
so I'm disappointed in the men's U.S. basketball team. We play Iran tonight at 12:40, so like our time, Eastern Standard Time. So
yeah,
if we lose to Iran in basketball, I might have to change my citizenship to something else. I don't know. Like,
who have they lost to already? They've lost to some teams, right?
Lost to France, of all places. We lost to France.
Wow.
That powerhouse of basketball.
Yeah, not quite a thing they're known for, is it?
No. So, I mean, there's some NBA players on it. They were saying, well, they're good. They have 2 NBA players on it. And like, well, there's 11 on our team. So
right, exactly. Yeah. They've got a couple. You got the whole team of NBA players. What are the what are the rules around that? Do they just can anybody do it? Because in the past, people have done it, right? Like LeBron James has played Olympics, right?
Yeah, you can play anybody now. You can.
Okay.
You don't have to be an amateur anymore.
Okay. Wow. Alantino, early super chat today. Taco Tuesday. More pre-recorded Fizz Buzz. Great days, guys. Yeah, coming soon.
Coming. We recorded
somebody in
day
Discord. So yeah, we did record a couple yesterday. So I have one kind of in the works that will probably it'll be tomorrow. So you will see a new pre-recorded tomorrow. Then I'm off for a couple of days, and then you'll see another one next week. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to do some tutorial stuff. We're going to see if you guys want more tutorials on this channel. We're going to try a couple out. If you like them, just subscribe and watch them and like them and give me views. And if they don't get views, then I'll keep them in the self-paced course. So we're going to try them out and see how it goes. So
yeah, that's the plan.
So I've got one planned. I'm doing that today, and that'll probably come out next week, something like that. So, and then we'll be releasing them every week.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on our channel for new stuff coming out. Again, first new pre-recorded one will be tomorrow. Probably, I'll probably set it for 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
that'll be my.
I think it's hot, man. Like we have a good take on that one. So like I think
it's
pretty good.
So yeah, it's topical.
Yeah, it's topical.
It's definitely topical. What we're going through in a minute. Again, I'll do Q&A. I'll ask Bobby all the questions. Throw them in chat. I'll queue them up. And we'll do that here in a minute. A couple things to talk about first, though. I just want to talk about one news story first, and then we'll talk about something that a student sent us.
Something student sent us.
Super interesting. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a second. So first, I just happened to see this morning. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
But it's super interesting. So Tesla rewrote its own software to survive the chip shortage. We've talked about the chip shortage a bunch. You practically can't buy anything, including cars right now. Have you tried to buy a car right now? It's kind of crazy. So we've actually been looking for a car. So Amy has a car, I have a car, and we during the pandemic we're both working at home. We're just gonna sell one of the cars. Pointless having 2 cars. Right. So we sold one and just kept one. And it's like, okay, so now she's gonna need another one. So we need to get a new car. So we started shopping around. Man, these guys have she's looking for a certain car, and it's not like I mean it's a regular car but there's 3 in stock in the state. Like you can't find them. So there's these massive shortages.
And then even I was talking to some interesting side note of this. Like I was talking to a guy that owns a dealership over the weekend. He owns 6 dealerships, and I was just talking to him about like, hey, dude, I was driving by the Ford place, and like there's like no trucks on the thing. The Ford dealership is empty. And he goes, yeah, chips. We just can't get chips. So the manufacturers have stopped producing cars. He said it's going to continue for the rest of the year. He said, so interesting. He said that, and I said, yeah, but like, how come used car prices are going through the roof? And he said, well, this is how this works. And I thought this was very fascinating, like how it works. He said, rental car companies would get excess demand from the manufacturers. And so they would get like some excess stuff that wasn't sold to dealers.
That makes sense.
Now the Ford and GM and all those guys have cut those people off because they don't have any excess demand. They're selling these cars that they're making as fast as they can make them. They're selling like right off the truck.
Yeah.
And so now the rental car companies are going into the used car market at the auctions, and they're overbidding for every used car on the market.
Oh,
because
wow.
they have a different like price point or a different kind of like way they monetize these cars. So like, paying $6,000 or $7,000 more for a car for them isn't a big deal. They're just going to rent it out and make their money on the rental. So
that's crazy.
That's causing them to make, even now if you're buying a car whether used or new, it's like the worst time to buy a car, period.
Yes, it is.
So
yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah.
And also I would say, so I would say also new cars, like they haven't price gouged new cars, right? The MSRP is kind of set on them and people aren't tending to like price gouge them. I saw a thing that says you're paying 40% more for a used car, which unfortunately the issue with that is it kind of it hurts the people who can't afford to get a brand new car but can afford to get a used car. And now you're even priced out of that now. So it's kind of crazy. I will say when we sold our car, we sold it to one of those, it wasn't CarMax, but it was Carvana, right?
Carvana,
so we sold it to them. They way overpaid for it. They overpaid to buy it from us. We got more than the Blue Book value for the car, like way more.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to say no, but but they were even overpaying me for the used car. They were still able to obviously flip it and make more money. I was like, that's kind of nuts. It's crazy. But yes.
So I think you should just wait 12 months. I think it's gonna fix it.
It is. For us, the only issue is like availability. Is the
right, exactly.
The price is the price. It's kind of set. Like that hasn't really gone up as far as the car goes. It's just whether you can get it or not is the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But somebody like, but like back to this story, somebody like Tesla being like, well, you know what? We'll just swap out the chip and rewrite the firmware.
Why isn't Ford doing this? I'm not sure why they're not doing that. I guess Tesla's way more
flexible,
way more nimble and flexible than say the big automotive manufacturers.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget a Tesla is basically a battery with wheels and a computer strapped to it.
Yeah, it's a tablet with wheels.
It is. I mean, it really is. Yeah, it's a giant battery with just like a computer and some wheels slapped on it. So I guess you can, swapping that chip out and rewriting the software. It's like, I mean, they're a tech company essentially. So why wouldn't you? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, look at this one. It says Daimler and BMW lack of chips forces shut down some of its assembly lines. Just like you were saying, they're just not manufacturing cars. Yeah.
So this is good for Tesla. Maybe they can hit some of this demand, and maybe a Tesla's in your future. Maybe finally.
Maybe.
You tell the wife, like, dang it, we got to buy a Tesla now because that's all we can get.
The only cars we can get are Teslas. I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. All right. Cool.
That's funny.
Let's get to this student story. I think that was pretty fascinating what I get back from this. And the reason that I'll talk about, well, let's just read the student story.
Yeah.
And,
so I made a little card with the quote that we got. So this was a message that you got in a channel on our teams from one of our recent students. I'll just read this out. It says, "Hey guys, I just want to shoot you all a message and say thank you so much." And before I read that, this is not a humble brag in any way. I don't want it to come across like a humble brag. There's a point in this, and we'll get to the point.
There's a point. Yeah, we have a point for this.
So I want to send you a message. Thank you so much for everything and share the good news. I have received a .NET developer offer today and have a third round interview this afternoon that I feel pretty confident could result in an offer as well. With both companies, I followed your advice, took control of the interview with my bug tracker, and they were all blown away by the code and the features. Just like you described, They started asking questions about my code and stopped asking random trivia questions. Worked like a charm. I honestly can't imagine how I could have gotten to this point this quickly without you guys. Definitely be recommending Code Advantage to everyone I can. Thank you. And that's the message in its entirety.
Yeah. So while most boot camps, Kevin, would tout, hey, look how awesome we are. Like we're awesome. Right. Come to the boot camp. Right. What Bobby says is just like, it's like pouring gold from a faucet. So, but I think the lead is buried in there. And so like what I want everyone to know is that, number one, I know that not everyone's going to come to the boot camp. And that's not the point of this YouTube channel. The point is to allow people that are breaking into the software industry to actually break in, whether they buy the self-paced course or come to our virtual boot camp. Doesn't really matter to me when we get on the channel here. Is to tell people how to get a software job. And I've been saying this for like years. And I get lots of pushback, which is amazing to me that I still get pushback on this. And so, I talk to people that will go and study leak code for 6 months. And they feel like that is the way that they're going to get a software job because they can reverse a binary tree, or they know all of these kind of leak code style questions, and stuff like that. And what I've been saying is the best way to get a software job is to write some software and show it to someone that's going to hire you. That's the best way to do it. And I think if you're out there interviewing and you're not doing that, I'm just going to pull a whole like Gary V. You're just doing it wrong. Like just quit doing that and just listen and write a project and then show that project to the hiring people that are going to hire you. And you have to be very kind of committed to your process when you get to the interview. You can't just like show up and hope they'll want to look at it, Right. So I even have students who credit for and say, well, they didn't ask to see my project. Don't do that. So we were talking, and this wasn't on there yesterday, but we were talking to a student last night. This is yesterday. He walks into an interview and says, he uses the opening statement that we train him and say, hey, I want to show you my project before we get started to show you what I can do. And basically the answer was, well, I got some questions first. We may take a look at it later. So he has it on his computer and he just keeps it, the landing page on his computer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the lady asked a question. So what we want to ask you is, so if you had some companies and you had some people, like how would you join those together in like how would you build those relationships out in there? And he goes, when you talk about companies and people, I have a piece of software here that's companies and tickets. It's the exact same thing. Let me show you how I did that. And bam, he didn't ask permission. He's showing it. He's showing them the relationships, the database and everything else. And like just totally takes control of the interview. And so there's two deep things in that guy's message that we just showed you is, number one, he had a project to show, but not just any project. And the reason we say bug tracker is because the bug tracker is so complete and so kind of feature complete that it literally can answer any question that you'll be asked during an interview situation. You can really relate any question to it. So if you're building tic-tac-toe and you're saying, hey, I'm building projects showing my tic-tac-toe app, Bobby, your stuff doesn't work. Yeah, it's the wrong project. You don't have a project that's complex enough to answer all the questions that's going to be impressive enough to do that. So it's build projects, but build complex projects and to learn how to relate interview questions to it. And if you do that, you'll win interviews. You just will, because you know how to code. And if you know how to code, you get hired. It's not magic. I mean, so I don't know why that we walk around and it seemingly is obvious to us that it would work, but we do get pushback. We'll probably get pushback in the comments of this video, like saying, you're crazy, man. At Google, they don't do that. They're going to ask you about these 5 questions, or this leak code thing. I had to study leak code,
Ego.
I'm telling you,
ego is, his one.
If I walked into Google today, I'm just telling you, Matthew, if you asked me what I would do right now, I would probably study some leak code questions, honestly, if I was interviewing at one of the FANG companies, okay? And only if I'm interviewing at the FANG companies. Right. There are people out there are studying just this, and they don't have an interview at a FANG company. They don't have a job, period. They're just trying to break into the industry. And then when you go to a non-FANG company and they don't ask you these things, it's like, you can't answer any of their questions. So It's just kind of, it's nonsense. So there's two things that the portfolio demo will do. Number one, maybe you ask the demo before they even get started, and you don't have to answer any of the leak code questions. And people say that'll never happen to Google. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not good enough to work at Google because I don't like reverse binary trees, you know? So,
Right.
but if I have projects that resonate with that interviewer, they're going to say, man, he did have some really cool stuff. You know, he doesn't know how to reverse a binary tree, but I mean, like, look at what he built. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. The third, okay, let me say, maybe at fourth or fifth, I don't know. The other deep cut about this is that he's interviewing for a .NET role. Both of these guys that we talked about were, and they had a .NET app. And so it's real important that your app aligns with the stack you're interviewing for. You know, so like, don't just shotgun it. It's like, I just want to be a coder. I want to be a developer and not have a stack that you can like iterate on. You got to know kind of what you're going to work on. I mean, and so like your project should line up with that. And now we'll have some questions in here. Hey, does that mean I have to write a app for every language I want to interview for? And we keep telling people, pick one, pick a stack, interview with that stack until you get a job, then pick another one. If that's what you want to do, if you just want to like expand your knowledge to a bunch of stacks. So typically,
kind of back to your point, Paul hits this on the head too here with building complex projects is key. I looked at some portfolio projects and most are too simple and don't really show what you can do.
Exactly. You have to build something. You have to aspire to build these complex projects because the job requires to build complex projects. I mean, there's very few that are building front-end only Fizz Buzz type applications, which we do. I mean, we build a lot of those in the Bootcamp and everything else.
But you have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere, and we're ramping those up. So like that's not where we're staying. And when we see some boot camps where they end on to-do lists, we're doing to-do lists in the first 14 days. So like we don't look at that as very complex. We look at that as a starter project, you know, and then even then we're adding things to it like local storage with your to-do list and like, you know, some other JavaScript things that should be included in everyone's end project, but they just don't have them. So, you know.
It's funny that actually Paul mentions this soon. It's funny you mentioned this because we one of the videos we made yesterday literally had this part, this exact part in it because we were talking about project work in one of the videos. And yes, if you have projects that are complex but do not work, you might as well not have them. It's just
don't show broken code, man. You know,
broken code is worse than having no code almost. It's just it's equally as bad. You're gonna get what we would call a soft no. Like, oh, you have, and you're just not gonna get it.
You're just not. They're gonna look at it and they're like, man, I can't log into this thing. I get a 500 or a or the URL's broken or it's no longer hosted or whatever it is. I mean, don't show broken code. Show things that work. You know, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that just shows lack of attention to detail is what it does. And it just means that you would ship broken code if you work there and they're just not going to hire you. So think about that.
Yeah, definitely. So go about this one real quick. This is out of context. I mean, not out of context, but in context, but out of line a little bit. I have queued up your other guy's question, but this one is relevant right now.
Yeah.
So the problem that isn't addressed here, this is Pocket Pixie. The problem that isn't addressed here is that some companies will outright just hacker rank you. So you can't show them a project. What do you do in those situations?
I don't know where you live. Okay, so apparently hacker rank is important outside the US. It's not important here at all. I've never looked up a person's hacker rank. But if it's in India and that's the way it is, then if I was running a YouTube channel in India, I'd probably be talking about hacker rank because that's the way employers are working. But I can't imagine that all the companies interview that way. So like maybe you just don't work at that company. Like if that's the way they're evaluating people, which is bizarre if you think about it. Like it's okay, but it doesn't mean that you can produce a complex piece of software from soup to nuts. It doesn't mean that you can communicate your ideas to the customer base. It doesn't mean that you can take user requirements and turn those into anything. It just means that you can crank out a small, well-defined, complex problem in a short amount of time. Whoop-de-freaking do. Can you actually build a website? Like we build websites here. We don't build hacker rank things. You know, can you communicate to that device with a Windows application? Can you make this manufacturing thing move? Can you those are the types of things that really, really matter. And so those are the types of things that we should practice building on. And trust me, if you build those things and you get a chance to show them, you'll eventually get the opportunity you're looking for, you know.
There you go.
And so they just want a quick way to like evaluate you. So I just don't think it's necessarily the best way. And in the US, I don't think HackerRank, I've yet to see anyone ask for HackerRank ever.
Yeah, we haven't had any of that. Yeah, I haven't heard any reports of students or anything saying like, "Oh man, they didn't."
And we have students spread all across the country, and like, I'm sure that if someone gets hacker ranked at a U.S. company and it was a Coder Foundry student, I would get a Teams message directly the very next second.
Yes, we would.
Man.
You sent me the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have just been.
I would say move on to the other company if you can. Yeah. But I may be wrong in India or Asia or Japan or South Korea or something like that. That maybe that's what they do. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. You want to get some questions now then?
Yeah, we'll do some good questions here.
Let's see. Sean has a question. It says a portfolio question.
Yeah.
How would you recommend showcasing a simple C# WinForm project on my portfolio? Since it requires a local install to run, I can provide the file and download link, but show pics.
I would show pics right now, but Sean, you're going to love .NET 6, man, because .NET 6 can target the desktop and it can go other places. So like, I think that's one thing that we'll be able to do is showcase that WinForms project on our website. Definitely with Blazor, you can do that. But I would take my WinForms project, my pure native WinForms project. I would create a presentation on it with screenshots and talk about what it did. Maybe a video recording of the demo of it would be. I
think a video is a good idea. Yeah, you could do a screen share style video, Camtasia or something.
Yeah. But definitely, you still want to post it on there and then have a good synopsis of what it does, maybe some links of some screenshots, and then maybe a video demo would be great.
Yeah, and then obviously you can share your code, right? So you can still do that.
Yeah, you can also have your GitHub link and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Radamantis says, what is the preferred way to query? I think you answered this one already in chat, but we'll talk about it anyway. Preferred way to query database from C#, link or raw SQL queries.
So in the class, we're using Entity Framework. We're typically using link to communicate to the database through link through objects. So that's the way we do it right now. That's the way a lot of people are going to do it. You also will be writing store procedures and then calling those from C# typically as well. In general, it's frowned upon to write raw SQL in your code base because it can be injected. There's other ways to get around it. I noticed one of them says that they were doing it with SQL commands and to avoid some SQL injection problems. Well, you need to avoid them all. That was one of the comments in there. You need to avoid them all.
Well, that's true. Yeah, if you leave one open, one's enough to get hacked.
Yeah. But so like, I think Entity Framework and ORM, like Entity Framework, is the way to go. And then you write link to communicate with that. And then in the occasion where a link is because it's actually creating SQL queries, maybe you have a performance issue right there, then you move to the back end of the database, write a store procedure and call that. So that's what I would do currently today.
Cool. I just want to share this one real quick. Liam said, just started adding CF projects to my portfolio and my own custom branding. It has been getting me a lot of calls. 3 calls this week, and it's only Tuesday. I love seeing those messages, Leo.
Love it. I love it. So Liam, just keep at it, man. I mean, like, add the CF project to your portfolio and custom branding. Amazing. I know that that's a very new iteration for us, like something new. And we have getting a little bit of pushback in the virtual. We're testing it. This cohort, we had a little bit of pushback, but like, I think they're buying in, and it just works, man. Like, the better something looks, the more stuff looks put together, the more professional you can push your projects out, the better the more calls you'll get, the more notice you'll get, because people don't do that. A lot of times, and Coding After 30 alluded to this, people will make side projects and then they treat it like a side project, Kevin, and it's kind of janky and say, oh, it's just a side project. It doesn't matter. that's my to-do list. I was just playing around with it because I play with code on the weekends. So therefore, you should hire me. I don't think it works that way. I think you're really missing an opportunity to brand something out, to really create a brand around it, label it, give it a logo, call it something real, and then show it. And then even if it's a to-do list, it can look so much better. People are moved by UI, man. They just are. If UI didn't matter, we just wouldn't colorize anything. I mean, like we wouldn't do anything. But like every website that you make, that you put on your portfolio, should be branded and well laid out and put together. So I'm glad it works out for you, Lim. That's awesome. And it's only Tuesday.
And it's only Tuesday. I love that part. I love the optimism there that there's still the rest of the week. So what is the difference between... Oh, no name's showing for this person. Interesting. Don't know why. What's the difference between C# and Java? They are a game, app, web developer. How can I choose?
Yeah, they're two languages. Okay, so they're two languages, obviously. They perform similar functions in that they're general purpose languages. C# obviously supported by Microsoft. Java, I think it's Sun at this point. I mean, I'd have to go look and see who's really behind those two things. So there's two companies pushing these languages out. They both have frameworks to do things. Up until recently, Java was the primary language for Android development, Android Studio. Google has since moved away from that, and they're doing something different now with other languages. So I think that is kind of, to me, one of the big uses of Java was in that Android development. I think you're going to see a usage in Java decline a little bit because of that switch by Google. So building websites, you have popular frameworks like Spring MVC inside of Java, and C# you have ASP.NET. I think that in the game development, it's not even close, really. It's C# and Unity. I mean, that's just, let's be real. If you're starting a game today and you're an indie developer, you're probably going to pick Unity. There's some other things out there that you can do. And beyond that, if you go into like the AAA studios, there's probably a lot of C++ still going on because they're probably creating their own engines or using their own engines. So for me, I think C# is a little bit ahead of Java at this point, as far as like the future forward. Now, today in legacy, I mean, you can make money and make a living on both of them. Here's what I would say. I would pick one or the other. And if you're asking me what to pick, I would pick C# because of ASP.NET, because of Blazor, because of .NET 6, because of Web API being the dominant way to build these service-based applications. And then when you look at .NET 6 with MAUI and the way you can target desktop and apps with the same code base, it's going to revolutionize this kind of app market thing. And we're going to make a video about that. But like what we think is the trend in 2022, .NET 6 will be the largest release probably in the history of Microsoft, as far as like the impact on the industry. It's really, really cool. And they are putting millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into C#, the language, the platforms, from Azure to how you can build it for that, whether it be MAUI, Xamarin, all ASP.NET, all of those things, they're pouring millions into that to make sure that you as a developer, when you make the choice to use C#, that it is something the industry wants you to do and you can get paid to do it. So I would pick C#. I just think going forward, it's definitely more forward thinking than Java is at this point. Now, Sun's going to have to step their game up and figure out what they're going to do with Java. Where are they going to push it?
Right.
Where are they going to? I mean, so they've lost the thing with Google, and that's not good. I mean, for them, they need to popularize the language again, go back into the marketing efforts like what Microsoft's doing. Make sure that appears in a game engine. I'm sure there's a game engine that has Java on it, but it's not Unity. They need to get back in the app development market. Maybe Sun needs to come out with a cross-platform thing that uses Java as the primary language. But they're behind the game on that thing. And then the web platforms, Microsoft's really pushing the needle on that. They just really are. So I just think it's not that's a hot take, I'm sure. There's a lot of people out there making a living on Java, and you can for the next 10 years, you probably will. But if you're starting today, pick C#.
There you go. You mentioned a word in there. You mentioned, you mentioned the technology stack. You mentioned Xamarin.
Yeah.
And here's a question. Was Xamarin course being the self-paced course? And
no,
you
it's
actually
called MAUI.
Yeah, because we were talking about this the other day. We're like, man, Microsoft
It's a
put out an
big thing.
announcement that what was it like Xamarin was deprecated or whatever. It's
The
like,
Xamarin
oh, what are
Community
you
Toolkit
doing?
is going to, yeah. So like it's going to be ended, and it's just called .NET MAUI. So it is
But they were very
way
unclear
better.
about that.
Yeah, they're very unclear. I think because it could be a couple things. Number one, maybe they feel internally that Xamarin doesn't have good name recognition, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
every time they change the name of something, it matters because people think they're abandoning them currently,
Right.
and they're
Right.
just not going to do what they're doing anymore. The real reason behind this is that Xamarin gave them a lot of technology that was really really cool, so they acquired Xamarin, so they
Right.
bought Xamarin, and now they have completed that over the last several years to be rewritten and fully consumed inside of .NET 6. So what they're calling that is MAUI, which is Multi-Application UI Framework. MAUI, okay, just call it MAUI. And so what that allows you to do is you can target Android still, iOS still, but now you can target Windows and Mac OS. So there's more capabilities there. Are you going to have to port your things in Xamarin into MAUI? Yes. But if you're in mobile development land, you're porting things all the time. Anyway, you're always having to upgrade kind of what you're doing
Right.
as the new devices come out. Anyway, so that should be par for the course. Having said that, Yardley, that means that we are not making a Xamarin course. We're making a .NET MAUI course for .NET 6. And once that stabilizes, we are going to build things that target the devices. And we're just saying cross-platform device programming now, which is like the mobile and the desktop. And so those are going to
Next
run
year
in
is
the
going to be
same.
interesting. It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting.
it's going to
Be a lot
be,
of cool stuff.
and there's still ongoing. This is also about app stores. So like what app store is going to win? So is Microsoft still going to try to compete with the Windows App Store? I'm sure they'll have something and try. They have the game store and they'll try. Will we get there? I don't know. But now you don't have to choose. You can target the Chrome, or you can target the iOS store. You can target your Android store, and now if their Windows store ever comes out, now you have a way to get your code there as well without having to like learn something new or do something different. I mean, I think it's really powerful. You also with .NET MAUI be able to build apps that run natively with web tools with Blazor. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
That's always kind of been around, but I think that this is going to make that a lot more foolproof than the other kind of methods that were kind of out there. So I think it'll behave better, run better, perform better than the pure JavaScript and like a Chrome wrapper type solutions that we've seen in the past. But you'll still be able to write full on native for each of those platforms. It's exciting. So it's kind of cool.
Definitely.
Now, will you hear about it from Microsoft? I hope so. I hope I'm not the only one talking about it, but like,
Right. You know, they do such a good job of that.
Yeah, sometimes they just put it out there and we discover it, but I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Cool. Next question. Rem wants to know, you're always talking about voice technologies. Do you think there's an opportunity for voice-based apps to shine in the future when it comes to making money?
Yes. I do think that's still, we'll see when it happens, though eventually that's going to happen. We're not going to search for things long term using Google search.
We were just talking this morning, weren't we? Literally talking about this morning when we're talking about when you ask Alexa for advice about something, like let's say that you're looking for a mechanic in your area and you say, hey Alexa, who's the mechanic in my area? Well, it can only return one result. Imagine how much that result's gonna cost.
Right. So I think that voice-based things are the future. I mean, definitely going to be the future. I think search is just getting started in that arena. So people use their phones differently than I do, just because I've seen people talk to their phone a lot more than I do. They ask Siri everything, or they ask the I don't even know what it's called on Android. They just hey Google.
Hey Google.
Microsoft, they didn't really win in the Cortana area. I still think they have that technology. I think that you're going to have to more and more increasingly build voice capable apps though, because once people say, I don't want to type in information, I want to speak it, you have to be able to do that. Now, Azure has some really great voice technology where you can build these voice-based apps fairly easily. So I think that's going to be where people are going to say, "Hey, can you build this voice app for me?" And that's how you make money doing it. So I think that that's going to be definitely in the future when it comes,
Yeah, I
especially
think it's
with
going to be something we're going to be integrating with a lot of apps.
yeah,
I could see that. It's going to be
yeah.
one of those just extra things.
Yeah, I talk to my car quite a bit still now. So like now that's how I make phone calls. And I'm getting better about using it. And I didn't realize the capabilities inside. I have a Ford Explorer. So
Yeah.
even now I used it to finally figure out how do I find a POC, which they call POC, which is a point of, I forget what the C stands for, something you're interested in, a POI, a point of interest.
Yeah, point of interest.
So find a store or a gas station or something like that. Well, now I finally read the book and said, how do I ask these questions to find it? And it works pretty well. So now I can find, that taco joint in, North Greensboro that, I know the name of.
Yeah.
So I think more and more, all of that technology is going to be coming to where voice will be the new UI that we need to be concerned with. And the funny thing is, it has no UI.
Right. Right. So it's a new way to interact.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think there's still a long way to go with it too. It's interesting.
It's a long way to go.
Often, I mean, there's privacy concerns a lot of people have with it always listening. That's kind of one thing that's something that's out there that's kind of like something to think about. But also, I don't know. So my car has the same capabilities, but it always mishears me. I could be having a conversation in the car, and all of a sudden the car's asking me like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "I didn't even say that. It wasn't even close to that." And it's like, I don't know. It just mishears me, and I'm like, "That's
British
kind of
accent?
annoying."
You think that's what it is?
I've probably got it in the wrong mode. I've got it in American mode, haven't I? I need to turn it to UK mode. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. But it's
you see your family and you're like, man, the cars love me over here. What's the deal? Like, and I'm trying to talk to it, and
so that's kind of annoying. In there's some things like that that are like that, and the same way with the phones too, with Siri and Alexa, and it's like, you can. I mean, Alexa's almost too good. There's one back here. I'm surprised it's not going off right now. Because it's like you've only got to slightly mention the name, and it's like, "Hey, what can I help you with?"
Yeah,
it's a little too good sometimes. Yeah,
Alexa's like that nosy neighbor. They're always got their cup to the wall. Like listening in on your conversations.
Yeah. So I mean, I get the privacy concerns there. It's kind of it's interesting. It's an interesting topic to talk about. Okay. Let's see. Best of Fire says, "I have a question. Is JavaScript in danger? Or is it in a dangerous situation after WebAssembly?"
Not in the short term. Let's just see where it goes. I'm not in the business of predicting the future necessarily with absolute certainty. I'm just telling you that WebAssembly in general has, in certain situations, can do things that JavaScript cannot do. So now there's a ton of JavaScript libraries that have been built that are like highly used all over the planet. So building a website without JavaScript, if you want to use some of those libraries, is not going to be possible. The question says, will the industry say, "Hey, I'm going to rewrite said library in WebAssembly"? That's the question. And then they come through like components or whatever that you can use inside of a Blazor app. I think you're going to see some of that. Will that take years? That's going to take years. But you need to know JavaScript currently right now. And if you're a working dev right now today, you should be looking at WebAssembly, and I think Blazor is the farthest along of anybody that's doing it, and definitely the most investment that's going into it is on the Microsoft side. They have the money, the time, and the effort, and the reason to do that. So they want you to build service-based apps with a web API backend and some kind of front end. Currently, right now, that front end is like React and Angular, and Microsoft really didn't have an answer to those types of apps. So when you go to Visual Studio, you see two choices: React and Angular, web API backend. Well, Microsoft wants you to build, using their technology, the full ecosystem so they can put it all in there. And so their Blazor is their answer to that. It just so happens that now they have a compelling case to why you'd pick one over the other, because it's written in WebAssembly. So things that you can do in WebAssembly, you just can't do in JavaScript. And so once someone builds something that's crazy cool, and then you're going to like, holy crap, they built that in WebAssembly. I think that's when you'll see a shift because we just copy people. Yeah, that's what we do as developers. We just want to latch on to the next great thing. What I'm surprised about this is that the industry was like blow up when Dino comes out. You know, Blazor comes out
Right.
and everyone's like, yeah, it's Microsoft, and we're not really concerned about it. And then of the two things, the capabilities and the things that can happen with WebAssembly and implementation at Blazor are way far superior than what can happen with a Dino. And it's just Dino's just yet another little, I call it little framework, you know, that may gain popularity, and we'll see. We just have to wait and see. So as developers, we need to pay attention to a lot of these things and try to like learn about it. I would definitely learn about it, but just keep up your JavaScript skills. It's not in danger. Don't abandon them. I'm never saying that, man. You got to know how to write
It's here
JavaScript.
for a minute.
Yeah.
It's here for a
It's
minute.
here
It's
for a
not gonna
minute.
it's not gonna
Yeah.
overtake it. That's for sure. Not anytime soon,
Yeah.
anyway. Just back to our voice thing real quick. Troy says 10 people in the same room using voice wouldn't go over well. There's a problem to solve.
It
So
is a problem to
Alexa's
solve.
doing this a little bit, right? Alexa will recognize at least multiple voices in your house. You can train it. So
Yeah.
you can. That's kind of one answer to that is training the voice, which I find is interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. So I think localized like devices that you carry would be something that you're going to see. I think that's where the AR
Yeah.
revolution comes in.
Thanks for the super chat. Andre said, "Hi. I take it the mobile part of the self-paced course will probably be integrated with the bug tracker."
We may do that. I think it's more than likely it'll be a similar app, but a new one called Ticket Pro. So like the design on the whiteboard is building Ticket Pro. And the reason we do Ticket Pro over the bug tracker is Ticket Pro has a natural reason for there to be a mobile extension on the app, whereas the bug tracker doesn't have a natural one. So we always think about the demo part of this, and so it just doesn't make sense to like kind of shoehorn a mobile strategy in a project that's clearly meant to be on a website. You know, like it's clearly meant,
it has to be logical overall. Because if somebody, like, if you go to an interview and someone's like, "Well, why would you need the mobile thing?" You have to have a good answer for it. It has to be a business reason.
Do it. I mean,
exactly.
like,
just because isn't a good answer.
So when we do the mobile part, so what we're considering are like use cases. So like you have a mobile system that you're collecting information for, and this will be a ticket, like a repair ticket. This comes from our experience working on ground locating systems that we did in the consulting company. So like we're going to build a system that would facilitate something like that. Or in the US, we have people coming to repair your cable, or you know, those kind of things. You call the cable repair, or you call the internet guy, and they go look at your buried cable to see if it's been cut. Or anyway, so that request comes into like a centralized hub. It gets geolocated and then sent out to the technician that's working in that area. And so they have a mobile device that they pull tickets down from the centralized database, and that installs it on a localized database, because mobile coverage can be spotty even in a like New York City, or even somewhere like the tech capital of Kernersville. There may be places where your mobile phone just goes dead. Well, your app still has to work. So we want to have this offline mode that is seamless when it goes in and out of coverage. And we use the database in the middle to do that. And so like that's the type of apps that we're going to show. Again, we go straight for the enterprise, not the easy route to go. And so we'll just build whole new apps around it so that it supports, so that when you show this thing, it makes sense to people. And if you're in the US, everyone has had the cable guy come to their house pretty much at one point in their life, you know, or
multiple
DirecTV,
points if you're me, because my cable sucks.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, or if you've had to dig anywhere in your backyard or anything like that, you're supposed to call before you dig. So there's 811 systems all over the US, and that is a ticket request that goes out to a centralized database, and it assigns it to someone who comes and does the ground locate, which they wave a wand and see if there's any wires where you want to dig, you know. So that's kind of what we do. And so like if you dig somewhere and break a fiber, you can like be charged for that in some cases.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yep.
Especially if it's a backbone piece of fiber that, you know,
that takes out most of the state.
Yeah, exactly. Like it happened to us when we're trying to launch a self-paced course. So
somebody needs to pay for that, damn it.
Someone does.
So Mo says, "Hi, I learned .NET Framework in college. What do I need to know if I want to start using .NET Core?"
So if you're talking about web things, just start looking at some of the samples on .NET. obviously you can go to learn.coderfoundry. We'll teach it to you. So,
shameless plug. There we go.
Shameless plug. But if you don't want to go to that because we plugged it, and that's fine. There's a lot of resources out there to convert you over. If you're talking about desktop, you need to look at desktop apps using .NET Core, which now is called .NET 5. They've dropped the core name, and it's just .NET 5 at this point. So what you learned in college was .NET Framework 4 point something, from 4.1 to 4.7. And then when they were building Core, it went through its own version numbers of 1, 2, and 3. And then when it went general release, and they had everything encompassed in the new rewrite of .NET, they called it .NET 5, and that's why it's called 5. And so you just need to be looking at .NET 5 at this point, and .NET 6 comes out in November. And .NET 6 will change the way we build Windows and desktop apps. No doubt about that. It's going to change everything that we're doing currently. It's for the good, though. It's for the better. So I would jump in with tutorials and jump in, since you already know how to do it, and figure out what you want to build. You want to build websites. You want to build desktop apps. You want to build mobile apps. You can build them all with .NET 5 and 6. So it's kind of cool.
And while we're on the shameless plug thing, I'll just put it back up again and just say, those of you that are new here, if you're interested in learning .NET, you could always go check us out on learn.coderfoundry.com.
Yeah, come with Coder Foundry.
As well as all other stuff.
Self-paced or in person, either way. Virtual in person, that was what I would say. Not in person, but virtual in person. So it's 2 different ways we do it. So that's kind of cool.
Cool.
Right.
Okay. Next question.
Ask us questions, send us a super chat. Buy some tacos. It's Taco Tuesday.
I do have a lot of questions queued up, so I have more than enough to fill into the top of the hour. Sean wants to know.
I mean, go ahead and answer that. Great question.
Yeah, how would you show a bug tracker with if it's a video interview? So if you're on Zoom or Teams or whatever, use the screen sharing option. Yeah,
it makes it even easier now, because now you can go to an
force it on
with
them.
dual monitors.
Yeah,
and you go to you're on Zoom. Typically, could be WebEx. I was on a WebEx the other day. I'm like, man, why are y'all still using WebEx? I'm like, it's not Teams or Zoom. Like
that's funny.
But you'll have a screen sharing option. You just share your screen with them. Now, what I would do, Sean, if you're going through interviews with this, is make sure that you practice this, okay? Because your technology has to be on point, it has to be seamless, it has to be quick. So typically, when I'm doing a presentation with people, I have 2 screens. One screen is the screen that I'm sharing, and one screen is what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at a monitor right now with the people on it, so I can talk to them, and then once I go to screen sharing mode, then I can just look at that screen over there to the right and real easily and show them what I'm talking about.
Yeah, make sure you're comfortable with your setup in terms of when you're sharing, it's going to ask you what you're sharing. Are you sharing a window, a screen, which screen? Make sure that you're comfortable with that part of it too. So it's kind of you're not kind of fumbling around to be like, hold on a minute, am I sharing the right screen? Is that the right screen? Is that... You're just going to put them off a little bit. So, can you see it? Yeah, that's always the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is okay to ask. I mean, but in general, you want to be on point.
You want to be pretty confident.
And I want to share, typically I want to share my desktop and not my window. The reason is if you have pop-ups or something like that, some of them handle it different and they may not show up. And so they may see that, the screen share may see that as a different window. And so suddenly your sweet modal that comes up to enter in tickets doesn't come up, because it's you're sharing the window.
But on the other side of that is it's also remember everything will show up. So all of your pop-ups will show up. So if you get, your significant other sends you a message or something, it's gonna pop up on the screen. If it pops up for you, they see it too. So turn off other notifications you don't want notified. You don't want a horror story there either.
Yeah. So turn off your email notes, air notifications, everything like that. Also clean up my desktop. I have a couple of desktops, and so I have a presentation desktop, and so I don't want all my icons floating around there and stuff like that, unless I want you to see them for some reason. So
yours is just a list of Destiny icons. It's just
so
that's probably not.
If you see things on there, you're just know that a lot of times I'm in Easter egg mode where I'm putting stuff out there on purpose. So I'm kind of like that. So
but that's true. You wouldn't go for an interview and share your screen and have a whole bunch of video game stuff on your desktop or stuff that's you don't want people to form an opinion of you. You want to be vanilla right? But
vanilla.
you kind of want to be vanilla in that point. Just have
And I think your
safe
background
for work
matters
desktop.
too. So
It does.
I
It
would pick
totally
a
does. Totally does.
pretty good background that's kind of like in the middle of not boring, but also not, you're not trying to make I don't know. I just make sure that it doesn't have the chance to be offensive whatsoever.
Exactly.
You know, so
Abstract.
like
Abstract wins.
yeah, abstract always wins here. So we had a blog that a guy built here. We'll tell this story. It's dangerous, but like, and I don't want to call it the young man because I'm not gonna call his name out. But and actually, I'm talking about you. I forgot your name. I'm sorry, but you did this, and it's okay. So he had a blog, and he had like, he made a blog, and I forget the title of the blog, but he put a picture on it, and it was the only blog item he had there was scantily clad women.
Oh, I remember this now. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, and I forget the title of the blog. It was like I forget what it was, but it had something to do with something like that. And I just told him, he said, I just don't understand why no one's calling me back. And I'm like,
you're like, I know why.
This is why. Why? Really? Is that bad? I'm like, yeah, it's bad. I mean, like, people, like, even if people like to look at the female form or the male form or whatever in Scally, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
But in the business situation, it just puts you off. Like, dude, like, get a room, or like, dude, like, you know, can we?
Yeah.
Can we
I mean,
keep it here?
your bubble might be different than other people's bubbles. Again, you've got to be vanilla. You've just got to be vanilla.
You know, and if HR is looking at, well, that's a sexual harassment suit happening. Let's just move it on right there. And, you know, they just
exactly.
wipe it away. You know, they're not looking at it. So
exactly.
Just make sure everything's clean. Make sure everything's clean and well, and you know, and then share your stuff up.
And it's funny because recently we had somebody else who we saw a portfolio or a piece of work of that had a very similar situation. You sent me a link to a piece of work, like, oh, check this out. Like, I check it out. I'm like, hold on a minute. This, like, you go into it a little bit, and there was like, again, like a scantily clad picture in the person's work, and I was like, man, how does this happen? Like, how, like, are you so far in your bubble that you don't recognize that somebody's going to be like, we don't want to deal with that? Like, I don't understand how you get to that point. Like,
exactly.
Just keep it just very, very PG. Even
PG, baby.
Even less than PG. What's the one that's less than PG these days? There's one that's less than PG. What is that? G.
Keep it G.
Keep it G. Yeah. If your kids.
And another thing too is like, even in your like your examples and stuff like that, like sample data and stuff like that, just pay attention to that stuff and always come across as professional, I think.
Yep.
I mean, like, in other words, like, I think someone put they put superhero names in as test data. And I remember telling the student, like, don't do that. Use the alter egos. If you want the deep cut, not Spider-Man, Peter Parker, you know, not Iron Man, Tony Stark. And so, like, use those names like that. So if they don't know who Marvel characters are, they still look like, oh, he generated some test data, you know? So, like, and then I just think that's better to do it that way than doing, you know, my favorite Pokemon characters are holding the tickets in my bug tracker system.
Right.
You know, Pikachu just doesn't work for me, you know, like, just don't do that, you know. So he's not fixing bugs. He's you know, he's out there in Pokemon Battle Land.
There you go. Quick says
black screen's fine.
Background is blank screen. There you go. It's going to be very, very unoffensive. There you go. Rest is tinker, dark gray background, no frame or no image for me. Super clean. There you go.
Yeah, man, super clean.
I have abstract. I just always will choose abstract images of some kind of gradient of some kind is normally what I'm going with. But yeah, something.
Mine's a Coder Foundry logo, so like that's.
You have a logo,
but I'm different.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to our next one here.
All right, cool.
Little Susie Parkins. Thanks for coming. I like the name. How many hours in your online course? You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, maybe I should go through and see how many literal video hours there are. I don't know how many there are. It's a lot. That's not accounting for how much work you have to do.
More coming. There's more coming. I mean, so like it's constantly growing. So our online course is a living, breathing thing that we just continually add to.
Yeah, so I can't put an exact number on it. But it's a lot.
I don't know.
There's 200
over 200 videos.
Over 200 steps. Yeah, within the thing, and most of those are videos. The shortest video being,
And
I don't know, 3 minutes, the longest being over an hour, and there's a bunch of those that are in the
yeah,
40, 50, 60-minute range. It's hard to tell. I'd have to go through and count it. But as far as work time goes, we know once we had the bug tracker, which is coming really, really, really soon, we're just finishing that. We've got a bunch of stuff up there already. We just haven't put it out yet. We're going to put it out all together, so that's coming real soon. When that's up there, we're equivalent to what we're doing in the Bootcamp, which is 500-600 hours worth of work. So that's the only thing that we can kind of compare it to that we know for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Lala wants to know thoughts on a before and after project for your portfolio. Take a business's bad website, non-responsive, etc., and redo it as if they were your client. I don't know about it for your portfolio. It could work to sell to the company, but you've got to put the work in to do it. That's the downside. If you showed up at your local pizza shop and you're like, hey, your website sucks and here's a better one, firstly, they might be offended. Secondly, you've put in all the work and then they're not going to pay you. It's like, it's not... That's how bad
I think you can just, if you just want to build websites for people, then just build some sample websites that you like, that you brand out, that you can show off your work, and then I would say you could give them a list of 10 things they need to think about, like responsive or whatever. I would never, and I get this all the time, I don't like negative marketing in general, but I get a lot of times where people will send me an email about our website. Or also I get, hey, do you use video in your business? Do you want to take advantage of our video production capabilities? I'm like, so clearly y'all haven't looked at what we do here. So
right.
So I think that's a bad practice. But I think that you can just showcase your own creative work that you build out, and someone will just look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. That's kind of cool. So that way you don't even bring up the bad website that they may look at. They just see all the good stuff. So I like positive marketing more than negative. So
yeah, it's tough to go to a company and pull off the "hey, your site sucks, here's a better one." That's a tough thing to pull off. It really is.
You better have some serious clout. I think that's a Gary Vee right there.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if they've come to you and they want your advice, that's a different story. But showing up and being like, "this is bad," and it's kind of that's tough to pull off. It really is. You got to be good at sales.
I was watching a Gary Vee keynote, and he was talking about the time he met with Toys R Us before they went under, and they didn't listen to him. And he goes, "We know how that worked out." It's just
that's a bit of a brag, isn't it? It's like, well, they died.
Only Gary Vee can get away with that stuff.
Exactly.
Most of us can't, So
most of us are not claiming to have saved, could have saved Toys R Us.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Hey, look, here's a hot topic. MLB wants to know, what are some tips for getting a remote job?
We're going to build a video on that this week, but
you may see a video out on this tomorrow. Just saying.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah. But in general, you've got to get your name out there, so you've got to build some kind of brand awareness about you, MOB. So you need to, I think, you should be blogging, you should be writing on LinkedIn. Make sure you have a LinkedIn portfolio or a LinkedIn profile, and then you have a portfolio site that someone could actually kind of engage with, and then follow tweets about people that could hire you. And then you got to ask your question, are you trying to break into the industry? If so, is remote really good if you're just trying to break in? Or are you wanting remote because you work in or you live in some place that doesn't have a lot of opportunities and you can't move, and so then remote's the only way? So then you go and then build up a resume and a brand around being able to deliver remotely, and then keep going. So I hope that helps.
There you go. Let's do a couple more real quick. Just quicker ones. Richie wants to know, after how many projects do you start looking for a job?
So if you build a full stack project and you're looking for a full stack job, start looking.
Yeah, if you have one good project, that could be enough.
Keep learning. So I think so. Just keep learning. Don't say I'm done with my learning and now I'm going to go look, because you can build 2 or 3 projects and then you even look better on that portfolio. So keep building projects, and once you got one that you can show, start showing it to people and see if you can get hired. And if you can't get hired with that one, build another one. Keep building. It'll take a minute to find a job. Don't think it's going to happen in 5 days. Just stay patient.
There you go. Okay, to this one. Andre wants to know. I'm assuming Andre is a little bit younger. Looks young in his picture here. How many hours should I spend for coding if I also like playing games? Any tips how to balance those two?
I don't know, man. I mean, like, are you just coding for fun? Or are
You
you
can
trying to
combine
break
those
into
two things. I mean, you can combine them. You could.
You can. I mean, I play
games.
video games a little bit, so like,
But you could start coding
but
games too if that interests you. That's something you could do as well.
yeah.
Combines kind of two things.
Here's what I think. If you're trying to break into the industry, okay, and you're saying I'm going to be working as a dev professionally, then you need to, and you're not working, then you need to spend the majority of your time coding, and some of your time playing video games if you still want to do that.
Right.
You can also say maybe playing games is not what I need to do right now, and then you just quit doing that so that you can spend time working on your craft. If you're working and trying to learn to code on the side, and you have limited time on each, I would say that playing games isn't in your future for the next 6 months. I would abandon that to get the thing that I want, which is I want to get a coding job. If you're just doing it for fun and you don't really have an absolute end goal in mind yet, then spend this, do what you want to do. I mean, like, so like, but for me, you're asking a person that runs a boot camp, and I think you should just commit to doing it over the next 3 months and spend all your time doing that. That's kind of how I approach this. Immersion is the only way to go. If you're doing it part-time, you're working and doing it part-time, coding's gonna become your hobby. If you're not working and you've got like a flexible free time, then you can spend it half and half. The more you spend on coding, the quicker you'll get to that job. So I don't know if you want a job or not, or if it's just a hobby. If it's just a hobby, then make
Doesn't
it
matter. Right.
There's nothing wrong with
Right.
that, though. I mean,
And there you go. And you have all the time in the world to do that. Then if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you do, like, if you are, I agree. If you're looking for a job or something, and like you need to put as much time as you can into the coding, and if you generally like don't have the self control to do that, there's a couple of things you can do. Sell the gaming system. That you just get rid of it. Just take the temptation away if that's something that you need to do. Or limit your time on it somehow.
Yeah, attend a boot camp. Give you a structure. Yeah, like ours. I mean, you can attend ours, and maybe self-paced isn't the way to go because you just can't devote your attention to it unless someone just tells you what to do, which is, I think we're all in that case to some degree. I mean, like,
Yeah.
So, but coding can be fun though. I think it's fun, and it can be funner than playing video games. I can tell you when I launched the self-paced course, when we got right down into it, my own personal life, I mean, there was a month and a half where those guys didn't see me on Destiny, period.
Yep.
At all. Like when I came back, they were like, "Wow, where you been?" You're
like I've been at the office since till like 3 a.m. in the morning, like trying to get this course.
Yeah, just trying to get everything recorded. So like, I think you can make sacrifices. So.
Yep. I think that's it. Cool.
Hope that helps.
One last shameless plug before we run out. You can always
check us out, learn.codefoundry.com. If you want to go to the self-paced course, check it out. We'd love to see you there, and then interact with us on Discord. But please, like this video, give us a like, give us a little sub, a little sub action. We're trying to push for 70K here. And we need to get that campaign going. Earn Kevin a plaque. We need 100K.
It's not for me. It's the Coder Foundry plaque. It doesn't have my name on it. It has Coder Foundry on it. I just want it on my wall. That's all.
It's Kevin's plaque.
That's not. I just want it on a wall. That's all. I just want to see it.
Get it on the wall, man.
Cool.
All right. Well, we enjoyed it. We'll be out Thursday. We won't be here on Thursday, but we do have some some pre-recorded content coming this week. So if you want to check it out, let us know.
There'll be a new video tomorrow, probably 8 a.m. We won't be in Thursday. We'll be back live next Tuesday, and we'll do this all again.
All right. Sounds good. Good luck and keep coding. We'll see you Tuesday.
See you later.